टाइटल का फर्क है, सर उससे कुछ फर्क नहीं है, तो अपन हेल्प करने वाले हैं। उन्होंने क्या लिखा है, सक्षम करेगा, तो हमने क्या लिखा है, सक्षम तो हम फल
John, sir, you are not audible.
Hello, am I audible? Thanks, Muskan, for playing university song. As a student coordinator of this event, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Maharaja Sahajirao University of Baroda. Now, I would like to invite Professor Bhavna Mehta ma'am for giving welcome speech. Bhavna ma'am, please come. For that, I would like to invite Tithi to give introduction of Bhavna Mehta ma'am. Tithi, please.
Dr. Bhavna Mehta is Dean and Head at the Faculty of Social Work, the Maharaja Sahajirao University of Baroda. She is qualified social work with almost 30 years of experience in the field of social work, women studies, and human resource management. Professor Mehta has worked extensively on women and children's issues, especially in violence, health, human rights, empowerment, child rights, gender and development, and corporate social responsibilities. She is also coordinator of research projects funded by government, voluntary organizations, industries, and international funding organizations. Professor Mehta is associated with many women, child rights groups at the local and national level. Dr. Mehta was the only ancient woman to have been invited by the Council of International Fellowship, Israel, under its peace program during the year 2017. Recently, Professor Mehta was the only Indian among the invited keynote speakers at the joint World Conference on the Social Work, Education and Social Development organized by the International Association of Schools of Social Work, International Council of Social Welfare, International Federation of Social Workers, and NS Association of Social Workers held at Dublin, Ireland. Dr. Mehta is a gender trainer who is widely traveled and has presented her work in many national and international forums. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for inviting me to give welcome address. I think there is some issue in the audio. A lot of people have written that there is an echo issue. Is my voice clear to others, or there is an echo even to you all?
No, ma'am, it's properly
Yes, ma'am.
working.
Yes, ma'am, properly.
Yeah. Thank you, Adya, for confirming. So, at the outset, let me welcome Shri Dhananjay Singh IRS Deputy Commissioner, for being as a main key resource person for this program. Dr. Professor Adya Saxena, Dean, Faculty of Arts, and Director of the Institute for Administrative Service Training that we have at the university. Professor Jagdish Solanki, the Director of Equal Opportunity Cell of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. Professor Sunita Nambiar, Coordinator of National Service Scheme of the university, and the student organizers of this wonderful webinar, which is on a very contemporary theme of opportunities for youth in civil services and development sector. I think this is one of the very unique initiative that has been taken up by EOC and NSS together for the students of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda to motivate them, guide them, and show them the pathway to join civil services in our country. Civil services, and to be part of civil services, probably the dreams of many young youth, especially those who want to serve the society. That could be people who are in the field of social work, in the legal services, in political science discipline. They would like to serve the society, and they would like to join youth civil services and do this service through that, because it gives them a platform. This services gives students an opportunity, not only an opportunity to meet with their dreams, but also contribute and do best using government resources and do the services for the society. Today's webinar is a one step to orient our youth towards this dream that they would like to fulfill, and how they could prepare themselves and take their careers in a right direction. And we have a wonderful resource person who has joined us. So Shri Dhananjay Singh on behalf of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, I heartily welcome you to this and thank you for agreeing to be the resource person for this particular webinar. Professor Adya Saxena is doing wonderfully, excellently well over past many years, managing this institute that we have in our university, where students are trained years after years, and under her leadership, there have been records of students who have cracked the civil service examinations and have joined the services later. So she is also another very appropriate person to be part of this particular webinar. And what more can we have is to collaborate with Faculty of Commerce, Professor Ketan Upadhyay, who has really agreed to be a partnering organization to do this program, because there are so many number of youth from commerce also desiring to be part of either IAS, IPS, or IRS services, and serve the country through that. I'm sure this webinar would be really, give a guidance and mentoring to all the aspirant students who have joined in a big number, and they will learn from the wonderful resource persons that we have today with us. With that, once again, I welcome all of you, and I wish all of you a great success in achieving your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhana ma'am, for your welcome speech. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Sunita Nambiar ma'am, coordinator of NSS and also coordinator of this program, to introduce Professor Adya Saxena ma'am, who is going to give opening remark for this webinar, as well as who is going to inform us about AICS Training Center. Sunita ma'am, over to you.
A very good evening to all the participants here. It is very aptly said in the welcome address itself that we have Professor Adya Saxena Madam here with us. And she has been in charge of the AICS Center, who has been, pivotal in training a lot of our students who are really up to making a mark in the civil services. Professor Adya Saxena needs no introduction in our university. However, for the sake of new students who have joined us for this webinar, I would briefly give. She is presently the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, the MS University of Baroda. She is an ardent scholar with Master's, MPhil and PhD degree in history from India. Contributed in the field of urban and maritime studies, and her interest is also in environmental history and history of science and technology. She was also a professor at the UGC DRS at the Department of History, has almost more than 20 years of teaching and research experience, and is also involved in archiving, cataloging, and preserving the vernacular manuscripts of the state finances of the Gaikwad state of Gujarat. And apart from that, many work being done under the Hari Bhakti Raneshwar Trust and ISRO. The director of the Center for Urban Studies at the university, and which also has come up under the British Council Knowledge Partnership Scheme, which is there since 2015. And thereby we have also got a collaborative project to the Center of Urban History, which is along with University of Leicester, UK. A lot of papers to her credit. We really feel privileged to have her and other guests among us who would really give us, our students, a very good orientation on how to really achieve their, the civil services to serve the larger interests of the country. Thank you. Over to you, Madam. Adya ma'am, over to you.
Yeah. Am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Namyar. I will take the opportunity to greet you all on a lovely day where we had been seeing rains for last 2-3 days. And I welcome everyone. Well, I would be moving on talking about the All India Civil Service Training Center, which is there in the premises of the Maharaja Sayajirao Rao University of Baroda, is straightway. And I would share this happy news to everybody that one of the student of AICS Center had scored 291 rank in his first attempt, where he cleared prelims, mains, and interview in one go. So may I request everybody to applaud for our own student, who was a student of Department of English and Faculty of Arts. I'm talking about Mr. Atul Tyagi, who has joined the AICS Center soon after his 12th class. Similarly, we have another girl who was basically an engineering student, joined our AICS Center, and she has scored 497 position. If you look the PDF document, which is available on UPSC website. So with this good news, I would be making you travel to the journey of this center, which started its journey on the MS University campus from 1970s. The building you can see off and on when you are visiting the CC Mehta Auditorium, a rectangular building with a small gate, actually is a gateway for many of the students of the Maharaja Sayajirao Rao University of Baroda and those who come simply for preparing for the variety of competitive examination, whether it is UPSC or whether it is State Public Service Commission, or they are trying their luck in Staff Selection Commission's position or looking for bank competition opportunities, or going to the CRPF commandant's position or CDS position. So in a simple way, I can say that a student who comes and seeks education and try to build during the graduation program also looks for serving the nation. And in fact, this becomes the objective of the center, where students are basically constructing themselves in a meticulous manner through love of labor and honesty, and have wisdom to carry forward the country and the world on the pathway to peace, parity, and profoundness. So this is a brief introduction of the AICS Center. If I talk about how a student can enter in this center, so naturally the entry is not that simple. Center has been conducting entrance exams. The seats are limited. Earlier, the seats used to be 60. For last few years, the seats are 75 for those students who are actually pursuing the last year of their degree program or have completed their degree program. And of course, the master's students are also eligible, or a student who is pursuing PhD and if interested in any kind of services, where entry is through competitive examination. But entry in this small gate for the larger gateway is through an entrance. And this entrance examination comprises of writing skills as well as personal interview skills. And it is here you see that the teachers who are coming over here, or the faculty members who are coming over here, or successful persons who are coming over here will mentor these students. There is one more program which we generally say, and it is especially focused for IAS examination. Here, a student who is entering in the first year of the bachelor's program will be admitted through again an entrance examination on the same pattern, the way I had suggested for the earlier program. And it is here they will put in their 5 years. And when this program was started, naturally the new entrants who had come soon after their 12th examinations groomed themselves. So they were being groomed in their respective faculties, in their core subject department, seeking help from their allied and interdisciplinary departments. And also they were putting in their efforts in a hard way and working hard for more than 14 to 16 hours for a set of 3 or 4 years. I had just given you example of Atul Tyagi. When he came, he was a small boy. And today, as I share with you, that in his first attempt, he has been successful scoring the 291 rank. So this is a great achievement for the program which got initiated. I must tell you about the success story of the other students who soon after 12th have entered into AICS Center, and they had actually gone for other competitive examinations, which I am not mentioning here, but they actually sought admissions or say gone into services in other fields also. So maybe in the field of geology, in the field of economic services, in the field of statistics services. And of course, all of us know that these examinations are conducted by UPSC. Further, you can see this story getting realized in the state public service examinations. So quite a few students in last, maybe 4 or 5 students of this batch had actually made or were successful in clearing GPSC exams. Many of them who had completed their master's program have cleared the UGC NET examination. AICS actually trains through workshops, special lectures in other examinations other than the civil service examinations. So this is a small story on my part, and based on my experience when I had been entrusted with the responsibility of the director of the AICS. Today I can say the way AICS is putting in efforts, and this effort is coming from the faculty members as well as the students who are associated with it. One more interesting thing about AICS Center is that the students who actually leaves the center, but they do come back again. And when they come back again, they motivate and they mentor the AICS aspirants for different kind of competitive service examinations. So this is a very healthy thing. So whenever they are in Baroda, they will make that, yes, to the director, whether it was me or the earlier director or the present director, Professor Mukherjee, that sir, we are here, madam, we are here, what we can do for the center, how we can help. And in fact, when they had come, they had engaged themselves, and of course, they said, no, ma'am, we don't want to go for honorarium. So this is their humbleness. So one can say the connect of the past, present, and future. With these words, I will take pause. Thank you, one and all. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, Adya ma'am, for giving opening remark and tell us about AICS Training Center. Now, I would like to invite Jisha to give introduction of Professor Jagdish Solanki sir, Director of Equal Opportunities Cell, who is tell us about the theme of today's lecture. Jit, please introduce Jagdish sir. Tithi, you may introduce Jagdish sir. Acha, Jit aaye. Haan, Jit, please introduce.
Good afternoon all. Good evening all. Now I would like to introduce Professor Dr. Jagdish Solanki sir. Professor Jagdish Solanki sir is a former Dean and Head of Faculty of Social Work at the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda and former Director of NSS. He was also the Program Coordinator of NSS. He specialized in teaching subjects like Social Welfare Administration, Social Policy, Industrial Relations, Labor Welfare, Management of Non-Organization. He is co-author of 5 books. He is also associated with 5 research projects of Government of Gujarat, the Government of India, and the public sector, associated with Foreign Exchange Program with University of Huddersfield, UK 2010. He was also the Senate member of MSU Baroda. Currently, he is the agency supervisor. Words are getting less to describe Professor Jagdish Solanki sir's achievement. He presented and published several papers at state, national, and international conferences associated with many NGOs, NSS, and government bodies. Professor Jagdish Solanki sir is also a director at Equal Opportunity Cell. With this, I would like to invite Professor Jagdish Solanki sir.
Good. Thank you, dear student. Am I audible? Hello,
Yes, sir.
am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, thank you, dear student, for giving humble words about me. I'm very glad to speak something. I'm very glad to speak something about about this theme of the webinar. The title that we have chosen is Opportunity for Youth in the Civil Service. See, we are youth organizations, and therefore we are, we are university. In the university, youth is there, and youth is a power. And the most of the powerful positions that we have in India would come from civil service and development sector. Civil services and development sector are the sector wherein youth would see the power. Youth themselves are powerful, and this sector both are powerful. And when two powerful entities are there, teachers like us should not take much time. But all those who have really enjoyed this power by working hard, by involving themselves in hardships and the joy for power, when they are with us, I think it is better if we listen to the key speaker whose experiences and whose wisdom would be of tremendous significance to the youth of our university. Let me tell you in very brief about EOC. EOC is an equal opportunity center. When we talk about youth, it comprises of all segments. There are youth who are most powerful. There are youth who need to be made powerful. There are youth who are struggling to be powerful. And all this type of youth have to be mainstream. And the equal opportunity cell, tries to see that distinct type of youth are given opportunities to excel themselves in their life. And this is such effort in that direction. Shri Sanjay Singh, who himself is an icon of the power sector, particularly civil services, when he is with us, I think it is in our interest to listen to him. And therefore, I am very glad to invite him to share his wisdom and experiences so that the youth after a few minutes from now, the youth after a few minutes from now will carry so much with themselves and will become powerful because you represent powerful segment. With these brief words, once I am very happy to invite Shri Sanjay Singh, to share his experiences with our university youth. Over to Sanjay Singh, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Good evening, everybody.
Before that, I would like to introduce Dhananjay Singh sir, and for the same, I would like to invite Dept sir, NSS program coordinator and coordinator of this program, to introduce our keynote speaker, IRS Dhananjay sir. Dept sir, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Jan. Good evening, one and all present here. It is my privilege to introduce Mr. Dhananjay Singh sir, IRS Deputy Commissioner. Sir is a civil servant belonging to the Indian Revenue Services, IRS, Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs, Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Presently, he is posted as the Deputy Commissioner in charge of various custom functioning, including that the important assignment group, specialization in assessment of capital goods, machineries, and project imports that are crucial building blocks of the flagship Atmanirbhar Bharat program of the Government of India at the Indian Customs Commissionerate, located at the one of the largest commercial ports of the India, Mundra Port in the Kutch district of Gujarat. Prior to the present assignment, he had the lead the technology intensively Central Intelligence Unit of the Central GST Zone stationed at Vadodara that performed the data mining and generated actionable intelligence in the order to plug the tax evasions and neutralize the fake GST invoice packets. He has also been recently awarded commissionerate certificates by the Ministry of Finance, Government of India, CBIC, on the occasions of GST. His educational qualifications include BTech, High First Class, MBA Gold Medalist, MA Sociology, PG Diploma in Commercial Law from the National Law School of the Indian University, Bangalore, and he has also done the CBIC DRI course at IIM Bangalore. He is also trained at the International Monetary Fund IMF's Institute for the Capacity Development in the Fiscal Sustainability and Public Debt Dynamics Analysis of the countries. He is a part of the DGTS CBIC team of the ambitious Mission Karmayogi National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building of the Government of India that aims to prepare the civil servants for the future by making them more creative, constructive, and innovative through the transparency and the technology. He has participated in the 5th Interpol Digital Forensics Expert Group, that is DFEG, aimed at the expert practitioners working in the field of the cyber forensics and digital evidence. He also been regularly invited to deliver the lectures at different forums that include the National Academy of the Customs, Indirect Tax and Narcotics and Engineering Experts Promotions of the Council under the Ministry of Customs and Industries on the topic of custom facilitations and experts and confrontations of the Indian Ministry. He has given the invited talks on the National Law University, Delhi, and Gujarat on the real estate and GST in India, and interface the tax of law in IBC 2016. Respectively, he has addressed the students of the Faculty of Commerce, Maharaja Sahajirao University of Baroda on GST issues, and has also delivered the valedictory speech as the special guest of the National Seminar on Indian Economy, Performance and Prospectus, organized by the Maharaja Sahajirao University of Baroda on 5th January 2019. His professional achievements include the appreciations from the Chairman, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs in the taxpayer on the GST have been published in the national financial press that include the Business Standards, Financial Express, Business Today. He has been rewarded for the accomplishing recovery of the long pending government dues. He has published an article in the department CBIC magazines in May 2019 issues on the use of the emerging technologies like the blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. in the various tax functions. He is a stand believer and practitioner of the probability in public life. So such is a very great diversified personality. So you are welcome, sir, and it is our privilege that we can hear to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
So my slides are visible on the other side?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, visible. Okay. Thank you very much. And it's a privilege and honor for me to address the youth through the esteemed university, that is the Maharaja Sahajirao University of Baroda. And as we all know, as the professors very rightly pointed out, that India is a youthful nation. About 50% of India's population is below 30 years of age. And at the same time, we should realize that we are enjoying a demographic dividend. And that window, the demographic window, will be open only for 15 years. The demographers say that we have the demographic dividend up till 2036, where the youth, India will be having a youthful population, and we need to leverage the energies of youth in a very productive manner. So, as one of the organizers has been the Equal Opportunity Cell, it becomes my bounden duty to mention that the distributive justice or the aspect of social justice is integral to the basic foundations of the civil services, and also the development sector, the non-governmental sector or the non-profit sector, which also deals with developmental issues at the grassroots. So we would all remember that we have seen this preamble, which has been published in the first few pages of our NCERT books, which we have read since our school days. And it becomes very important to point out that justice, social, economic, and political, these aspects are actually very much integral to our functioning at the civil services, or when we deal with the developmental aspects. So the fundamentals of Constitution are actually the cornerstone or the touchstone of what we do. In principle, all the policies which are framed are adhering to the constitutional framework. As we all know, constitutional guidelines are the guidelines from which all the laws and the statutes flow from. So, since the topic of our webinar is oriented towards civil services, which is also an area of work for the youth, and also the development sector, which is comprising the non-profit sector and the voluntary sector, which is also a very equal and a very important stakeholder in the development process of the country. So for the future civil servants, it becomes very important for them to understand that the civil services has undergone a major sea change in recent time, especially after the advent of neoliberal policies and what we know as LPG policies, liberalization and globalization and privatization policies, which were implemented in 1991, the first generation reforms, which brought in the neoliberal policies in the Indian development paradigm. So that has changed the way the policies have been grounded prior to the 1991 era. So it becomes all the more important for the civil servants to understand, or the to-be civil servants to understand the requirement of the future civil servants. So as we all know that the government through the Department of Personnel and Training, the Government of India has launched a very ambitious project with the Prime Minister himself unveiled in 2020, which is called the Mission Karma Yogi. So Mission Karma Yogi is basically meant for nurturing the civil servants and how a civil servant should be has also been provided. So a civil servant is expected to be proactive and polite. At the same time, the civil servant is also expected to be professional. So professionalism is a very important attribute, must-have attribute, and professionalism is crucial. As we all know, professionalism is a basic requirement for success in any field, be it a business, in management field, or in government sector, or for not-for-profit sector, in the development sector. Professionalism, which entails detailed planning and efficient execution, becomes a very important factor even in the civil service. So other important aspects becomes in the present day country where aspirations of the people have to be met. So it becomes very important for the civil servants to be transparent and also embrace technology. And also at the same time be creative and constructive. And last but not the least, embrace innovative practices. So though bureaucracy, as we all know in sociology, the bureaucracy, the Weberian bureaucracy has been traditionally classified as having been made to follow set rules, but set rules should be to nurture or to further the goals of the constitution, but at the same time innovation within the four corners of the law also becomes the need of the hour. So we'll also discuss how considering the Indian scenario, how frugal innovation, where the resources in a developing country may be limited. So how does a civil servant or a development practitioner embrace innovative techniques which is suited to the local conditions and develop solutions for that. So at the same time, the leadership, as we all know, the Union Public Service Commission provides an entry into the leadership roles in the civil services. So for that also it becomes very important that basic ingredients of an effective leader have to be there or should be nurtured from the start, which invariably comprise about integrity. Integrity, as the name suggests, is very important, not only in civil services, but also in all sectors of work. Integrity basically means that one does what one speaks, and there is a congruence in what one speaks and what one does. So that aspect of integrity becomes a sine qua non for success in any field. At the same time, I come back to the same point of professionalism. So professionalism is also termed as excellence in the chosen field. It can be in any chosen field, it can be civil services for that matter, it can be development sector, or it can be the for-profit business sector. And then at the same time, all efforts are done by groups of people or organizations, which we speak in sociology and management as a group of people or organizations. So organizations, the basic ingredient is team spirit. So in any role that I have delivered, so we work along with the officers and the staff, and we work as a team. So we are able to have results which are very near to the optimum. So if the team doesn't have the required levels of team spirit, then the results are suboptimal. So for all the participants, it becomes very important to refer to the NITI Aayog, which we all know is the present day new format of the erstwhile Planning Commission of India, Niti Aayog. The strategy document, I placed it here in one of the slides to emphasize the main points which our Indian development strategy focuses at. So the main points are very important to put the context of civil services and also at the same time the development sector, because the development sector is an equal partner along with the government in executing the developmental or in achieving developmental objectives of the public policy. So the drivers for any strategy can are, as per in the Indian scenario, are the growth and employment. So employment and economic prosperity becomes a very important factor, especially as we all know that we are in a new liberalized economic landscape. So we need to understand the importance of business, also the importance of being a facilitator, whether you are in any service or any cadre. The importance of becoming a facilitator becomes very, very important, because the growth and employment, the fulfilling of aspirations of the teeming millions will come only through economic prosperity. At the same time, we all know that agriculture is a mainstay of India's economy. So agriculture, there have been the latest lot of interventions done by the government since last year, especially post-corona, where the major policy changes have been done to encourage the entry of private entrepreneurship into the business, into the agricultural sector. Because as we know, the agricultural sector, we'll discuss in detail as we go ahead. Also, it becomes very important to point out that the Make in India is a flagship program of the Government of India, which is focused on encouraging the manufacturing in India. So probably all the students would remember their basic economic classes, wherein they have studied the three major sectors of any economy, the primary, secondary, and the tertiary sector. So the primary sector being the agricultural, the secondary sector being the manufacturing, and how important the manufacturing sector is, because the manufacturing sector also employs those people who are lower in the skills ladder. They may not be PhDs, or they may not be from the tier 1 universities or the universities, but they are in the lower in the skill chain, value chain. So it provides not only employment for them, but it also generates so many of the allied industries. So Make in India and manufacturing, especially in the Indian context, and the government policy also, as you know, is totally focused on that. There have been many recent government policy changes, especially linked to production-linked incentive scheme, which have been quite successful since the last year, especially in the electronics manufacturing sector, where India itself is a major power to reckon with. India is the second largest manufacturer of mobiles in the world. So we'll discuss that also, because that has an impact on the employment scenario also. Science, technology, and innovation. Innovation becomes a very important factor. So fintech and tourism being a services sector, and we know that India is having a very high proportion of contribution of services to the GDP. So be that as it may, a services sector also needs to be encouraged. And we know that we have the aspects of the fintech, financial and the development in the financial technology sector. Fintech is also emerging a lot in a very important way. The things that we know at ground level, that is the UPI, they are all examples of the developments in the fintech sector, and the latest being the blockchain interventions in the fintech space. So the infrastructure, the second pillar of the strategy document of the country, is the infrastructure. The infrastructure, one has to look back to the economics, Keynesian economics, where infrastructure or the infrastructure spending becomes a very important kickstarter for the economy. So infrastructure is again a very important part of the policy document, where it focuses on energy, transport, smart cities, Swachh Bharat mission, environment, and water resources. So a person or a youth who aspires for a career in the civil services needs to be aware that what is in store for him. So in sociology, we also call it anticipatory socialization. So they need to be aware of what is there in store for him when he or she becomes a civil servant at the group A level. So for that, it becomes very important to be aware of the basic tenets or the basic fundamentals of the India's economic or social policies. So inclusion, again, an aspect which also rings bell with the equal opportunity cell is inclusion or the social inclusion, especially on the aspects of social development indicators of health, education, nutrition, gender, and again, most importantly, the traditionally marginalized sections. They also call the tribal regions also need to be given equal footing. So at the same time, the entire all the policy document is grounded in the governance framework, because governance is how the policy will be implemented. Governance, probably you would remember that we talk about corporate governance in the case of for-profit business. So governance is the underlying theme or the common string that connects all organizations or all bodies that are executing certain objectives. The way things are done becomes very important. So governance entails the civil services reforms in the nature of the first slide that we discussed, Mission Karma Yogi, that has been launched by the Government of India. That is also a great step in the step of civil services reforms. Civil services which is attuned to the rising aspirations of the people of India, and also with the culture and customs of the land that we operate on. So it becomes equally important to understand that the economic paradigms in which the 21st century policies work, because there is already an unpacking of roles as policy maker, regulator, and service provider. The roles, the erstwhile combined roles of a policy maker, a regulator, and a service provider are increasingly being delineated. Probably you would know that the telecom sector is a very classic example of this one, wherein the telecom sector took off when regulatory and supervision role was taken away from the DOT and BSNL. Basically, this is a governance reform in which there is an encouragement of both the private players and the state players in strategic sectors, where the state has a responsibility of providing a level playing field, and a regulator, a professional or a subject matter regulator regulating the sector, where private players are also operating, and only in strategic sector there is, in the latest policy of the government, in the strategic sector there will be a state player also in addition to the private. So that is the policy paradigm that we are discussing, in which a civil servant is expected to work. So the sustainable development goals becomes another very important point for a civil servant or a development practitioner to remember and to identify that this is very important. And these SDG goals are also one of the driving forces for the policies, especially the development and the social development sectors of the government. So these policy goals not only are a policy guiding tool, but they are also business opportunities for profit sector, because these are where there are opportunities which can be bridged by an entrepreneur and create economic value. Wherever there are needs, as we all know that any entrepreneur can enter an area where there is an unfulfilled need, so and generate economic value. That is how a business gets generated. So these 17 goals are not only a guiding framework for the policy of the country, but they are also a canvas where for-profit businesses or new startups, they can think where interventions or where there are greenfield areas or where there are opportunities to enter and generate value for not only for themselves but also for the society. So agricultural sector in general has been very important for India, and the latest policy changes that we all know has been to make it more entrepreneur friendly, so that the net productivity from agriculture gets increased. In that line, it also becomes very important to understand that agriculture sector has certain unique characteristics. Take into account those unique characteristics, government also has the scheme for 10,000 farmer producer organizations. Producer organizations are basically those organizations which are controlled by the farmers themselves. A classic example of a producer organization can be a cooperative, for example, the famous model of the Amul. So there has to be Amul-based cooperatives in other sectors also, in agricultural-based sectors. So that is the next area in which the development practitioners or the to be civil servants need to be attuned to. Because in civil services, you do deal with public policy matters. So the results would be optimal if we are ourselves attuned to the requirements of the service. So at the same time, AgriStack, as we know, is a specialized digital technology stack, which is there on the India Stack. Again, a technology platform. So these are the technologies which are enabling the technology side of the agricultural value chain. So in addition to that, we all know that eNAM was already there in place, the National Agricultural Market, the Electronic National Agricultural Market. In addition to that, the agricultural marketplace were opened up to unlock opportunities for new investments. Where e-trading, tech-based platforms were encouraged based on the policy changes in 2020, and also the major, as we all know, there has been a concern on the post-harvest losses in India. So in that, to address that problem, so there has been a major push for coal investment or gross fixed capital investment in the cold chain infrastructure and warehousing. Another very important sector where growth in the agriculture side can happen is the food processing sector and the logistics and insurance. So we have on the development sector side, we have around 3 million non-profits in India. So the non-profits or the development sector in general, they have the strength of agglomeration economics. We talk about cluster-based development. So in that concept, they also have the benefit of agglomeration economics. So the government as a policy maker and as a facilitator frames the policies, and the development sector or the voluntary organizations or the non-profits as equal development partners, they collaborate and leverage their agglomeration economies to deliver the results on ground. So it becomes a very important policy tool for seamless last mile delivery to the intended beneficiaries. So that is where we are placing the development sector as an equal partner in the development paradigm of the country. So as we all know, even the public policy is moving towards rights-based acts, where, for example, right to education, and the food on the food side also we have the rights in the form of acts already there in place. So rights-based non-profits are quickly repurposing themselves towards pressing issues arising out of the pandemic. You could realize that even those in the last year, especially soon after the pandemic broke out in March 2020, we could see that those non-profits, for example, one example I put in the slide itself, by the name of Ali, a non-profit working in the Lucknow area, Uttar Pradesh. So they were a rights-based non-profit, but they could repurpose themselves to attend to more pressing issues of attending to the requirements of the migrants or to the food and the health aspects. So that is how the repurposing was done, or the pivoting was done by the non-profits post the pandemic. So the students, from their perspective, they can also develop a set of transferable skills by volunteering with non-profits while they're studying. So another very important aspect becomes very critical or crucial for a civil servant or to be civil servant to understand is the aspects of economic changes. So we all know that economics is a very major public policy driver, and the change in geopolitics, especially after the post-pandemic and sourcing strategies of the companies have also changed due to the disruption of supply chains post the corona pandemic. So with that, many of the companies shifted their production bases from China to other places. In many cases, the production shifted to India also. So once again, I would emphasize the mantra of the government, which is called the more governance and less government. So this is the mantra, this is the driving force, more governance. So governance referring to more reforms and less of government. The government which is totally focused on efficiency and effectiveness. And at the same time, public policy which also focuses on privatization. Civil servants need to be very much aware of the public policy intent towards the privatization. And make in India with a focus on jobs for the youth. As we all know that we have a youthful population, and it becomes very important for the government to provide or to provide an enabling environment where the companies or the private sector can generate economic wealth and provide employment opportunities for them. And as we all know that any production or manufacturing is by becoming a part of a global value chain or GVCs, global value chain. So we know that a mobile may be manufactured or assembled for the matter in India, but some parts of it would be made in some different parts of the world. So how important it becomes to be a part of the global value chain also decides the manufacturing level of manufacturing development in the country. So the Atmanirbhar package, which was announced by the government last year, also entailed a focus on making Indian companies or the companies operating in India to effectively become a part of the global value chain. That the production linked incentives of the government also played a very important role. And and the last year has proven that it has been very successful in encouraging the private sector to invest and provide for manufacturing development. So these are some of the policy changes on the customs. Customs basically is the border facilitator for international trade. So is the border facilitator for international trade, and the customs initiatives have been taking India to a very high rank, especially on the parameter of trading across borders. And Indian customs basically has led long-term structural reforms to ensure the ease of doing business. So the civil servants also need to be aware of the aspect of ease of doing business, as the Honorable Prime Minister also says about ease of living business, ease of living and ease of doing business. They all become very important points for a civil servant to be accustomed to, because the future ready civil servant has to deliver on those fronts. And these are the major initiatives again to encourage manufacturing. As we all know, given the constraints and the specificities of India's developmental path, manufacturing becomes, even today, manufacturing becomes a very important policy goal, considering the aspect of employment and generation of economic value. So the government has also provided policy benefits for encouraging manufacturing in custom bonded manufacturing in custom bonded warehouses by providing a lot of facilitation points of a single point of approval and totally online based approval of which reduces the transaction cost of the private entrepreneur and the startups, and also having a deferred customs duty with no interest liability and a lot of other benefits. Main point, the deliverable of the session is that we need to be very much aware that government is doing a lot of things for encouraging the private entrepreneurship for startups to leverage the various policies to generate economic value. So that is where a civil servant as a facilitator comes into the picture. Infrastructure, as we discussed earlier, infrastructure, we already have a national infrastructure pipeline of which is there in place, and this national infrastructure pipeline is of an amount of rupees 100 lakh crores, comprising rupees 20 lakh crores per year for 5 years. As we all know, construction and real estate sector has a spillover effect in about 200 industries such as steel, cement, and has a very high multiplier effect. Logistics fundamentally impacts the unit economics. This infrastructure development actually has an impact on the prices of the goods and also has an impact on the prices which the companies will charge to the customers. If we have a very efficient supply chain and roads and the transportation network, then the unit cost will be reduced. It becomes very important on that front also. So major initiatives have been there to boost the MSME sector. As we all know, MSME is one of the backbones of India's economy. We have a major chunk of the enterprises which are very small. 70 million are small businesses comprising 2 to 3 employees each, and they are generally in the economic literature called the missing middle. And it becomes very important for the civil servant to be aware that this 70 million small businesses need to be given the due focus, because that is where majority of India's population get their employment. And on this front also, the government has made major initiatives, especially to enable the small and medium enterprises to get finance, easy finance, and to reduce their transaction cost by making filing of GST returns, net GST returns through simple SMS. So these all reduces the transaction cost of small businesses. Again, at the same time, we need to focus that India is also the home of the major unicorns of the world on startup. Some of the major unicorns which have recently also offered IPOs are also from India. So this also becomes very important for a civil servant to be aware that startup space is a very important focus area, and the government already has done a major work in this area of not only encouraging the startups to the startup missions, but also encouraging innovation through the Atal Innovation Mission, not only at the school level through Atal Tinkering Labs, but also at the community level. And there are free of charge the app development tools available on the Atal Innovation Mission government website. So the India is now the world's third largest startup ecosystem, and there are major businesses which are booming even post-pandemic times, especially on the software as a development, the platform as a service, software as a service sector, SaaS, PaaS, edutech sector, health tech, fintech, online gaming, agri-tech. Agri-tech is a very niche area which is still having a lot of scope for private entrepreneurship. And most importantly, given the characteristics of India's development space, the artisans who are there in the villages who don't have access to markets, that becomes a very important business model or the business wherein the private sector can pitch in, and government as a facilitator or civil servant as a facilitator can provide a level playing field, or the facilitative public policies can be provided by the government. So to go further, the equitable capitalism or the triple bottom line becomes a defining feature, and there are many businesses, especially and also on the Indian side, whereas we have been all made aware of Arvind Eye Care and new niche businesses like R Imagine worked on recycling business. So all sustainable businesses, and that also probably for the sake of illustration, I will also refer to Khan Academy. Khan Academy has a vision, mission, goal of providing free education to any person across the world. So such are the goals of purpose-led, purpose-driven organizations. The frugal innovation, especially the post-pandemic, there have been many such examples which we will see, especially on the sustainable development framework side of where given the limited resources, Indian entrepreneurs to develop COVID-19 test kits, MyLab being an example, and also IT Delhi startup Etex producing cheap and effective face masks. And not only these startups, but also corporates coming together, and Tata, Mahindra and Mahindra, Maruti, Ford, GM, and Tesla quickly responded by retooling, that is based on flexibility-based strategies, and started scaling up the production of ventilators, especially post-pandemic. So the main point being that there have been major disruptions in the banking, finance, and services and insurance sector, BFSI sector. So the government, especially the regulator, sector regulator, the Reserve Bank of India, is also studying changes, especially how blockchain is interacting with the fintech space. So such would be the opportunities and the challenges and opportunities for a to-be civil servant in years to come. So last but not the least, the importance of behavioral strategies, especially the nudges, which is coming from the Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, who had written a very famous book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and how India's policies are also gearing towards implementing the behavioral strategies, so that our citizens are able to leverage the full benefits of the policies. So finally, I would end with the main point relating to the behavioral aspects of a civil servant himself or herself. We focus on empathy. Empathy highlighted in the sense of what Mahatma Gandhi said through his talisman, which is again mentioned in some of the front pages of our NCERT books. Talisman, the last mile, the person on the last point. So we are able to empathize with the person, or we are able to look at the problem of the person at the last in the queue. So that becomes even very important for the civil servants and a development practitioner to embrace the aspects of emotional intelligence, especially the aspect of empathy. Empathy is actually also the core of any design thinking. The corporate side, empathy, whenever new products are brought into market, the for-profits enter into the shoes of the customer or the intended beneficiary, and try to understand what are the actual needs of the customer or the intended beneficiary. That count, the empathy aspect becomes very important for a civil servant while designing public policies. So especially post-pandemic crisis, it is said that great crisis produces great men and great deeds of courage. And crisis, as has also been said, that never faced a crisis. So Airbnb, the major aggregator of rooms, was also born after a crisis. Alibaba's e-commerce platform also came after a crisis. So the crisis has the added advantage that it puts all the market participants at the starting row, and even the newcomers are also equally on the starting row as compared to the earlier incumbents. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure interacting with all of you.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful and insightful session. Now I would like to invite Dr. Alpa.
Good evening. I'm audible to all of you?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful and insightful session. Now I would like to invite Dr. Alpa Parmar, ma'am, NSS Program Officer and Coordinator of this program, for taking question and answer session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shubham, and those who are the volunteers. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you, Dhananjay sir, for a wonderful session. Now the question and answer session from the student side. The first question, which is asked by Virat Singh Sisodia, he wanted to like about, sir, how to make ourselves self-motivated for a long time. This is the first question.
Okay, a very important question. Thank you for the question. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Screen is visible.
So what is the slide visible right now? Example of persuasion.
Yeah, I can read it. Great crisis produce great men and great deeds of
Oh, no, ma'am. Actually, I think it is stopped. Okay, let me start. Share it.
Okay.
I think it is stopped. Okay. I think the answer to the question of the student is there in the slide. So how to be motivated? So see, the aspect of motivation also comes from the aspect of the driving force. What drives us? So you would remember that the Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I hope my slide is visible right now. So how did he motivate his friends to do the chore of this painting of the walls? So he had given a reason wherein he made that job interesting. So for being motivated, either you should have a reason for yourself to be motivated. You should give yourself a reason that you are able to fulfill your aspirations. You are able to do justice to yourself. That being a very important motivator. Or secondly, you are able to do justice to your parents who have done a lot of work for you. They have taken care of you, and your teachers who have taught you a lot. So there should be certain immediate motivating factors and a certain mid-term motivating factors and some long-term motivating. Maybe a long-term maybe that you are able to do a meaningful contribution in the community. It can be in any sector. It can be civil services by setting up a factory or industry, or being an entrepreneur, being a startup idea generator, or maybe you can be a development practitioner who partners with the government for public policy benefits at the last mile.
Okay, thank you, sir. The second question is by Rushika. She is an SY student. She is asking, how can I start my preparation for civil service examination? What is the first step I should take?
Okay, so in that case, the first step is to go through your own syllabus that you are studying. So if and to do justice to the studies that you're doing, because as we speak, the civil services of through the UPSC has undergone a tremendous change. So so it is actually enabling a very level playing field for students who are in different parts of the country, who may not be having access to professional help all the time or professional coaching facilities. Though I have never taken, neither have advocated, but at the same time, the questions and the pattern of UPSC has been so evolving and so inclusive that it is favoring a person who is having original thinking. Because cut, copy, paste answers in answer sheets or when as a practitioner or civil servant may not serve the purpose. It may not serve huge developmental policy goals that a civil servant works towards in his professional work. He or she needs to have original thinking wherein he or she can appreciate the evidence placed in front of him or her and come to certain conclusions given the constraints. So for that, you need to have your fundamentals very clear, and one of the very important sources for making our fundamentals clear are the NCERT books or the textbooks which have been prescribed for the specific subjects in your own university.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful answer. So now third question is by Jayant. How to choose either IAS, IPS, IFS, which is better for us as students?
So the aspects of choosing between services is totally a professional choice and a personal choice. So a few points from my side is that it should also be thought from a longer term perspective. So one should also be aware of what one would expect once he or she joins that service. So rather than entering a field in which even after clearing the exam, one has to be very much aware that once one joins a certain service or a cadre, one has to be very clear that what are the expectations from my side. For every state, for that matter, or every service for that matter, has specific characteristics and has specific requirements, both in terms of behavioral aspects from the civil servant and also the domain knowledge. So, it is very important for the 2B civil service to be aware that domain knowledge along with behavioral aspects are becoming increasingly very important. One-time exam is just one part of it, but increasingly the government is focusing on a very important aspect of the lifelong development of the civil service, so that development goals can be.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that. Next question is, what is the importance of revenue in civil services and development sector?
So the aspect of revenue is very important because as we know, the simple finance or the simple 101 economics is that the top line and bottom line of any business, and government also has a balance sheet, and for that the balance sheet it becomes very important to have revenue flows. So the government or the sovereign has statutory powers to levy taxes and duties, and through which it collects the resources for executing the developmental goals of the country.
Last question, sir, by Ved. He wants to ask what type of questions are expected in UPSC exam, and second, he has asked, if I fail in UPSC interview, is there any scope for the job then?
So once a student embarks on the journey of civil service, one has to be very clear that it is a learning experience. The learning, as we all know, our parents have been saying, our teachers have been saying, that learning never goes waste, and it's actually true. So once learning has been done through the preparation, it will help you to be successful in any other domain. So we should, whenever we are preparing, and as I already mentioned a little while ago, that the UPSC pattern is evolving as we speak. It is becoming more and more democratic, inclusive, and innovative to provide a level playing field for all types of students coming from different types of economic, socioeconomic backgrounds, privileged and non-privileged. So, and this is actually happening as we speak. So that becomes a very strong point for students who have original thinking, who are able to analyze a problem and are going beyond the textbook, give some application-oriented answers along with practical examples, wherein they propose to implement how they can implement, because implementation is a major focus area. The success in implementation is very important for any program to succeed. at the ground level. Policy and implementation are two sides of the same coin.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session of question and answer. Rest of the questions, those who have asked, we will try to mail you the answers. But because of the shortage of time, we are concluding as time limit is there. So thank you, everyone, and those who have asked the question and all the participants. Now I would like to call upon Jayan to continue further.
Thanks, ma'am, for moderating QA session. Now I would like to invite Professor Jagdish Solanki, sir, to give a vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, last but not the least, program without gratitude. Program without gratitude is not a program at all. I express my gratitude to our patron, Hon'ble Vice-Chancellor Professor Parimal Vyas, sir, who has been constant inspiring us to to conduct many programs of this kind, helping university youth to grow and develop and empower. My special thanks to the keynote speaker, Shri Dhananjay Singh IRS, Deputy Commissioner, Government of CGST, Government of India. What a comprehensive presentation. What a great content with the lucid explanations. It was great to listen to you, sir. We look forward to have many more such occasions, to be part of your session so that we keep on learning. We express our gratitude to Professor Adya Saxena for sharing her experiences on training center of our MS University. Our program partner, Professor Bhavna Mehta and Professor Ketan Upadhyay, we express our thanks to you for collaborating and for supporting us in this great endeavor. Professor Sunita Nabiar, Alpa Parmar, Dr. Deepak Makwana, they have also contributed as a part of institutional support from National Service Scheme. Jayan, Muskan, Riddhi, Joy, Tithi, Ved, Aditi are the backbone of the programs. Without them, conception and completion of this program is near to impossible. I express my special thanks to them. I finally express my thanks to participants because it is they who are really the independent variable. It is for them we work. Let us work together to make difference in ourselves and difference in lives of others. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to request you all to stand up at your place for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, Muskan, for playing national anthem, and thank you everyone for joining us and making this possible. I hope that we will have many more interactive sessions in future too. Thanks all, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
I would like to thank you for allowing and bringing the collaboration between Faculty of Social Work and Faculty of Commerce. I, on behalf of Professor Ketan Upadhyay, sir, from Faculty of Commerce, Thanks all of you and all the participants of commerce and all the other areas. Hopefully it was a wonderful session for all of you. Those who have not able to get the answers, we will definitely get back to you. Don't worry about that. So thank you, Jayant, and thank you all the volunteers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
sir
very
and
much,
ma'am.
Arpa ma'am. And thank you, Aja Saxena ma'am and Jagdish sir and all for joining us. Thank you. Sir, with your permission, can we end the meeting? Yes, yes, thank you.